Does it feel like the veil is thinning more significantly and maybe permanently to you? Or that timelines are converging? Does it seem like maybe humanity is evolving and that maybe it is approaching readiness for disclosure? Well, it seems that way to me. And now I think that maybe humanity is ready to hear what I have to say, even if it all ends with a question mark. So, my friends, I ask you, are you afraid of the dark?
When I was working with the Catholic Church and my now former investigation teammates, I and we were under immense pressure to keep nearly immaculately quiet about the things that we saw, heard, experienced, and caught on tape. Specifically, I was told that I should not at all discuss outside of my relationships with my teammates and the Father of the Church the experiences and relationships that I had with non human, less physical peoples and beings. I was told explicitly that although I was believed by my teammates and that Father of the Church, the public would not be able to even begin to handle the truth and the science behind the truth that I wished to share. In my empathy for the public and from concern for my safety and reputation, I have kept silent about it all except for a minute number of people whom I would trust with my life. It has been, however, several years since my involvement with the church, and I see now that the tides have changed. We now have brilliant scientists like Steve Mera and Barry Fitzgerald making phenomenal, pun intended, presentations about the paranormal and related sciences, writing books about it as well. And then there are field investigators and researchers turned documentarians like Greg Ogles, whom I've had the pleasure to work with recently. He and his team have made a stunning documentary about these matters, and he has appeared on my show to talk about what I call metamechanics, aka weird science. Never in my lifetime did I think or dream that humankind would rise to this level of open-mindedness, objectivity, attention to detail, and honesty. But the men that I have named, and several others, some I know personally and some I do not, have changed my mind and my opinion to the point that I believe it is time to discuss metamechanics. In this multi-part series, I will be addressing as much as I can the entirety of metamechanics and their subcategories. What exactly is or are metamechanics? I define this area of scientific study as a noun which means, quote, the scientific study of the intersections between quantum physics, time, quantum mechanics, traditional physics, cymatics and vibrational/frequency sciences, philosophy, biological health, and biological manifestation, aka biological variety, unquote. On a more down-to-earth, practical level, it may be helpful to think of metamechanics as a common noun in itself, outside of the purely scientific realm of study, exhibition, and theory. In everyday language, we can define metamechanics as being, quote, the areas of overlap between physical life, time, science, the paranormal, philosophy, and the patterns of existence in our universe, unquote. I hope that this new series will provide an entertaining and holistic explanation of these definitions. I will be explaining every angle of each area of metamechanics as much as I possibly can, and I will aim to provide as much disclosure as I am able. If all of this feels a little chilly, let's heat things up.
creatures have some way of sensing infrared radiation, the low-frequency light waves that we feel as heat. But some dial this sense up to 11. Like they can detect a fire from kilometers away or see their world with heat alone. Pit vipers get that name from the pair of heat-sensing pit organs below their eyes, and they're able to create an image out of the infrared radiation they detect. This helps them accurately strike at their prey, a feature especially useful when hunting at night when lots of yummy small animals are active. The pit organs work like a second pair of eyes, except that they see heat instead of light. Each pit has a sensory membrane hanging inside with several thousand heat-sensitive protein channels embedded in it. And these channels are super sensitive. They open up for temperature differences of just a couple thousandths of a degree, which is important when your prey's fur or feathers are similar in temperature to the surroundings. When a channel opens, an electrical signal is sent to the snake's brain. The pattern of signals is mapped and processed to form an image, much like how you and I see, because our brains can interpret signals from our retinas, though the snake's infrared image is not as high definition. What researchers are learning from bats could teach us more about brains. I know that this sounds like it might be a leap, but bear with me. You see, pit vipers are not the only vertebrates that use infrared radiation to locate prey. Vampire bats also possess this ability. It comes in super handy for them when it's dinner time because they feed solely on warm mammal blood. And it's hard to do that if you can't tell where that blood actually is. So much like pit vipers, they have heat-sensing pits in their faces. But they use a different protein channel, and it's actually the same one that humans use to detect burning hot temperatures and spicy foods. Typically, these channels are activated by temperatures over 43 degrees Celsius. But inside the leaf-shaped pits adorning their noses, vampire bats have super sensitive versions that respond to temperatures around 30 degrees Celsius. And it's those proteins that researchers are interested in because they could improve upon a neuroscience technique known as thermogenetics. The basic idea here is that neurons are turned on and off when ion channels open or close. So if, thanks to genetic engineering, you give certain neurons channels that can be opened and closed at will, you can flip them on and off to see what those neurons do in the brain. Now, neuroscientists already do this with light, as there are special channels that can be opened or closed with certain wavelengths. But thermogenetics aims to use infrared and other kinds of long-wave radiation instead, since they are able to penetrate tissue a lot better than visible light. And that could open up whole new avenues of study, as right now, getting the light into the dark recesses of an animal's brain is tricky to say the least. That's why they're excited by the special channels in vampire bats. They may be just the thing to take thermogenetics to the next level. It's clear that for all these animals, their super infrared detectors are evolutionary gifts, which have allowed them to do incredible things. And now they are proving to be gifts to the scientific community as well.
If all of this thus far seems a bit unrelated to the paranormal, I wouldn't blame you one bit. I think that the first and most important aspect and lesson of metamechanics, however, is that everything is connected. It seems to many that Bigfoot is disconnected from Dogman, human ghosts from fairies and aliens, orbs of light from near-death experiences, and so on. But the truth, as I understand it, is that all of these peoples and all of these phenomena are inherently interconnected on a biological, scientific, psychological, experiential, cultural, social, and emotional level. It could appear that bats and snakes have little or nothing to do with the paranormal, yet here, the common theme is heat-seeking. Let's jump into this concept. Here's a brilliant base exploration to get us started.
Can you humor me and close your eyes?
Yes. Eyes closed in my closet.
Okay. So now journey with me. Me and you are on a trip. We've got our backpacks and our hiking boots.
Okay.
And we come across this site, an archaeological dig, and they're like unearthing this ancient library. And we're like looking all around, and you're over there, and I don't know, you find like a old globe. And then we come across this book that's like covered in dust. And we blow the dust off. And the dust, like, it turns into like snowy, frosty snowflakes and little tiny flames.
Oh.
It's like, and then it says in silver letters, kleptotherms. And then we were like, ooh, what? And we cracked the book and it's like, and we open it. And there's 5 chapters. And we turn the page. In the first chapter, there's just a picture of a snake in a coil. So we're going to start and read that chapter.
Okay.
So once upon a time, there was a bright blue snake in New Caledonia. It's bright blue and black, so it's just like striped.
Is this real?
This is real. Oh, this is one.
Okay, this is.
Oh, it
okay,
turns out this
real.
whole book is stored in the Library of Congress as nonfiction. Okay.
Okay.
So it's this blue and black snake. It looks kind of like Beetlejuice, and it is it is a horrible thing. It's an amphibious sea snake, so it can live in the ocean and on land. And scientists have observed that it does this thing.
They sneak into burrows, which are occupied by large tropical seabirds.
This is Hans Isermann, a social scientist at the Université Grenoble-Alpes, who explained that the snake will slither deeper and deeper into the burrow toward the bird, sneaking up. And then it just kind of hugs it.
And they take advantage of the mass body heat in warming their own bodies.
And are they not even eating those birds? They're just kind of like curling around them and sucking up their heat?
That's essentially what they're doing, yes.
Wow. There's just something so primal about the heat being more important even than the meat.
Yeah. So this behavior is called kleptothermy.
Kleptothermy.
And what does that mean?
Basically engaging in heat theft.
Okay.
You see it all throughout the animal kingdom.
Really?
Kleptothermy. Yeah. So
Seriously?
Yeah. So like male garter snakes.
They pretend to be female so that other males will try to mate with them.
Like the friction of them trying to mate just warms them up.
Yes.
There's little dwarf caimans, which are kind of crocodile-y looking things that steal from termite nests.
How do you cuddle up to a termite?
I don't know. I think you just like throw yourself upon the whole warm nestiness of all that bug heat.
Wow.
And us humans also engage in kleptothermy when we want to.
That oh so sweet act of cuddling, or as the scientists call it,
Huddling.
is, for at least one person involved, a theft.
I remember reading about it a couple of years ago, and I thought it was just fascinating. But if you think about it, it feeds into the same kind of equation.
An equation biologists call the economy of action.
It's very simple. Animals need to take in more energy than they exert. And one of the most expensive things that we do, particularly as mammals, is warming our bodies.
And it turns out that of all the ways to keep our body warm, jumping up and down, finding a sunspot, eating something really fatty, getting our warmth from another creature is super efficient.
It can decrease the cost of thermoregulation by up to about 60 or 70%. Wow. There are a lot of observational studies on this for many, many different animals.
Rats, penguins, degus.
Not only is their peripheral temperature higher, but also their base metabolic rate is much lower, meaning that they exert much less energy
to stay warm.
Huh.
I would like you to please note that energy borrowing, energy theft, and energy sharing or transfer, these are all some of the key mechanics in metamechanics. Almost every species, whether sentient or not, or somewhere in between, whether human or not, or somewhere in the middle, borrows, steals, or shares energy with others in some form or fashion. On Earth, in the 3D, the main energy type is heat. Temperature and heat are most related to physicality and health for those who have thoroughly incarnated here on the 3D plane and or who would like to manifest here to some degree, pun very much intended. And a person's temperature, as I understand it, is a reflection of genetic profile, aka incarnation palette, plus mental health, plus physical health, plus social and emotional health. These are all completely related, and science in the human species is only beginning to comprehend this. Let's take a listen to an example.
And And so Hans's idea is that because for so long humans relied on getting warmth from one another to survive.
Even 200 years ago, people would sleep with 9 people in one bed to keep warm.
Our sense of how chilly or warm we feel isn't just about air particles. It is being influenced by the people around us way more than we typically think.
I think it's for most people, it's hard to imagine until you see it, and then you can't unsee it.
Which brings us to chapter 2.
What's the picture?
I'm wearing sweatpants, a long sleeve shirt.
It's a guy in a jacket.
It's probably one of my nicer shirts. I wanted to look nice, even though it's only the radio.
His name is John, and he's going to lead us to a different idea about how to get warm.
Okay.
Okay. When I was 13 or 14, things really started to change. I gained a lot of weight, and everyone was like making fun of me. And I became very uncomfortable in my skin.
Which, happens to a lot of middle schoolers. But for John, it hit him harder.
I was scared of looking at my own reflection. I almost thought I was seeing a ghost. I would keep the lights off and keep a distance from the mirror. I didn't look at the mirror for 2 or 3 years.
And then once he hit college,
I started hearing voices.
And what were some of the kinds of things they might sort of be saying to you?
Do this and do that. I gotta walk in a certain fashion, and they told me that I didn't deserve to eat. It was madness. And then I saw a doctor.
Did you get a diagnosis then?
Yeah, schizoaffective.
Which is not exactly schizophrenia, but has some of its symptoms. And at a certain point, John does something seemingly trivial. It's a nice warm day out, shorts and t-shirt kind of weather, and he puts on a winter hat.
I got for Christmas one year.
What color?
It was gray. It's a comfort.
And before he heads out the door, he rifles through his stuff and decides to also put on
a hooded sweatshirt, hood up.
And then he grabs a third layer.
It was a jacket.
And a fourth.
Sweatpants.
Until eventually he's all bundled up from head to toe. And he started going out in the muggy heat of a Connecticut summer wearing this little getup all the time. And people would say things like,
"What are you, preparing for a wrestling match? Trying to lose weight for a wrestling match?"
Right, like training in trash bags kind of thing.
Yeah.
And John is the first person to say, as he was putting on all these layers, he was falling into this trope. If you saw someone walking around in a ton of layers in the heat of summer, you're probably going to think something's up. Maybe keep a wide berth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when people see you wearing layers, what do you think they think about you?
I think they're fearful. They fear me.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
And the thing is, while most people might step away when they see someone wearing layers, there were a few people all over the globe who decided to look closer.
Am I audible?
There you are. Sorry about that. This is Dr. Tathagata Mahintamani, a psychiatrist in India.
Currently, I am in northwestern part of India.
Who, back when he was starting out as a psychiatrist in Ranchi, started noticing that in the middle of summer, every now and then, people with schizophrenia would walk into the hospital wearing tons of layers.
Ladies who are wearing multiple layers of saris, and male patients who are wearing multiple layers of shirts.
And over in Melbourne, Australia,
I was doing my first psychiatry rotation.
Dr. Terence Chong was treating a patient with schizophrenia.
I noticed at the time he was taking off layers and layers and layers of clothing. And this was in the heat of summer.
There was a doctor in Memphis, Tennessee, who noticed the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and eventually it even got a fancy medical name.
Redundant clothing.
So the idea there is just it's redundant. You don't need it. It's multiple. It's redundant clothing.
Yes.
So a bunch of doctors were seeing this, but nobody really knew why. And some of the explanations were like, look, people with schizophrenia, some of them end up not having homes. They're living on the street. You have to keep your belongings on your back. So like you wear them all.
Another thing might be avolition.
A lack of motivation. So basically the person maybe forgot to take the last layer off.
Yes. Or
another explanation is just this generalized erratic, I'm confused, so I have on all these clothes. I mean, there were all kinds of different explanations. Can you just describe why you crave the layers?
I think it's a way of shielding myself from the world. Like, I feel the world is harsh. It's hard. It's hard for me to completely put a finger on it because I was just doing what felt natural.
And Dr. Maheen Tamani, after seeing enough people walk through his door wearing layers in the heat, seemingly comfortable, wanted to figure out if something else was going on. So he got a group of people with schizophrenia, some of whom wore layers and some of whom didn't. And he just ran all these tests. He did like cognitive tests and psych tests and physiological tests. And basically, long story short, what he found was that the people in layers had something different going on with their blood. First of all, their blood pressure was dropping way lower on certain tests. And when he analyzed blood samples, he found that their T3 and T4 levels were lower. And what does that really mean? Like, what does that mean?
So free T3 and free T4s are very reliable markers of temperature regulation.
Temperature regulation?
Yes, with cold intolerance.
Like you just get cold quicker?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You feel cold quicker.
Wait, so they may have layers on because they are actually physically colder.
I asked him almost exactly that. Is your idea that they are actually wearing the layers to feel warmer?
It is our findings that not and our ideas are based on our findings.
He says the evidence suggests that like they are wearing layers for the same reason you or I wear layers when we go out into the winter. Like their body is telling them they feel colder.
Whoa.
I have encountered clientele in the past who, whether with or without schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, experienced severe issues with cold intolerance, hypothyroidism, Raynaud's, and redundant clothing obsessions. When I would examine their presented mental and emotional states, their social circles and the sizes of them, if present at all, family history, reported abuse history, and drug or alcohol abuse history and exposure to such, as well as an obsession with animal company, specifically dogs, I found strong links between abuse, mental instability, loneliness, antisocial tendencies, schizophrenia, schizoaffective and similar disorders such as major bipolar disorders, bullying, and purposeful or accidental withdrawal from healthy social circles and or inability to create or engage in healthy social circles, and low thyroid conversion and activity and cold bodily temperatures over long stretches of time. I think that it is also crucial to note here that I do believe there is a fair amount of misdiagnosis going on here, as in some people I do not think actually are schizophrenic, nor do I think that they happen to actually have schizoaffective disorder or even bipolar disorder. I think that there's a lot more that goes into this. I am simply using them as shorthand right now to paint you a general picture of the things that I've noted, if that makes sense. I have also seemingly discovered that there is a strong correlation and perhaps direct causation between traumatic events around puberty especially, or life-changing social traumas, life traumas, and lowered inappropriate bodily temperature for that person's genetic profile. This then brings us to sentient non-human body temperature and less physical atmospheric temperatures. From all of my experiences with non-human people, every species that I have had the pleasure to meet and work with has reported to me that temperature is a dimension that does not exist on the higher vibrational planes. From the jinn to the fae, every type of person I have spoken with who resides on lighter dimensions primarily has told me that the temperature in their realms always feels, quote, just right, and that one of the challenges of coming to the 3D plane resides in heat, aka energy gathering. According to them, heat, which as we have discovered earlier is called infrared light here, is the most physical and most common type of energy here. It is also by far the most necessary, as the cold easily can kill human people. If anything, I am told, the lack of temperature in the less physical realms translates over to Earth as being cold, and this is apparently why non-human people are so often associated with extremely cold weather, such as the wintertime in the northern hemisphere. It apparently feels very close to what they are accustomed to, by comparison, and to gather heat, which translates directly to physicality and mass here, and which then allows them to directly interact with the physical environment here as human people would, this is the biggest challenge that they face if all of the other metamechanical requirements are met for their genetic profile. In hundreds of tales that are said to be historical accounts, there are hybrid people and/or people who are freshly from another dimension or whose home dimension is of a lighter vibration than Earth's, and they have mingled with humanity from the birth of humanity itself. Human people then have gone on to take note that most non-human people, that is, people who have a different genetic profile than human people, are much colder to the touch than human beings typically, and many do not tolerate the heat well at all, past what human people would consider to be perhaps chilly weather, say somewhere between 60 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit max. Of course, please do know that there are certain exceptions. Genetic preference and default is for much colder temperatures than what human people experience as their own preference and bodily default. Let me show you what I mean.
Hello everyone, my name is Sir Spooks, and today we'll take a look at 5 of the scariest things caught on thermal cameras. A thermal camera forms an image using infrared radiation. They are often used in paranormal investigations to hopefully capture ghosts that will not show up in normal light. Some ghost researchers speculate that ghosts manipulate energy to appear and that such anomalies may show up in thermal images. Cold spots are a good target. So, let's begin. When the Ghost Adventures team went to investigate the Hale Spa Dam, they captured some compelling evidence through a thermographic camera. At some point, while Aaron is doing an EVP, a figure can be seen walking away from him. Aaron was standing at the exact spot where a male ghost had been spotted by many people.
Dark masses walking around, so we're going to see if this camera that sees in temperature can pick up on any of those. Go up level, Aaron.
Alright, here I go.
Whoa.
Guys,
What's wrong?
the energy up here is so different than anything you felt. Dude, I got like electrical chills up my body, dude.
Ask him to manifest himself up there, Aaron. That's where they've seen him.
Ooh. Alright, digital recorder is right there. Do you stand here and watch people as they work and do what they gotta do? Bitter and pissed off? Oh my god, dude! Dude, something just tugged on my so hard, bro.
Are you serious?
I am not kidding, man. I'm just standing here and I feel a tug on my vest. Oh my god, dude, I don't want to come up here again.
I saw something. You were like in the second window. I didn't say anything because you were doing EVP. But I think when we review this, there was something captured at that exact moment.
For real?
Yeah. And upon review of our thermal imaging camera footage, you can clearly see this dark mass as it moves away from Aaron. It bobs slightly up and down, just like a figure walking. Is this the dark figure that's been seen on the catwalk by several witnesses?
Was this truly a spirit walking away from Aaron or something else? Hoaxing a thermal camera recording like this is likely very hard to do, if even possible. The figure is completely black on the thermal imaging, unlike a live human body showing up with warm colors.
If the purportedly true footage is real and the equipment is accurately portraying the temperatures, then the ambient temperature at this location is quite low in comparison to the human person. But then we see the, you could say, shadow person, or the manifestation of the less physical person. In this recording, the less physical person is depicted as being quite cold, and is in fact being shown to match the lowest temperature in the room. I have found that this is perfectly common and is the base temperature template or model for non-human people who are attempting to manifest into this physical reality. In my experience, most often they are hiding or residing right behind the veil, as most people here say, between this physical realm and the lighter realm. And they are occupying the place that I call the pre-physical. And this may be detected on some hypersensitive equipment, as they may leave slight clues as to their location because the equipment may detect small EMF, magnetic or light or temperature disturbances that seem completely unrelated to the rest of the environment, or that are said to be extremely odd anomalies depending upon the context. This is not the understanding that I hold, though, in calling these occurrences anomalies. These are not at all anomalies, but are clues. If one can find these tiny disturbances, one may well be witnessing pre-manifestation phenomena in that area, and if the proper energy sources are supplied, it may be highly likely that shortly after these anomalies, quote-unquote, are detected, a full manifestation or further unmistakable paranormal activity can and or will occur. As well, I have seen dozens of real-time thermal readings taken by my former teammates on location when I was an investigator. These readings have lined up perfectly with what my non-human connections have explained to me, that when they are manifesting here, they come into this plane from coldest to warmest, meaning that they can and do control which parts of their bodies translate to the 3D, and that this is directly reflected by heat, or you could say energy, gradients. This is why on some investigations and in some civilian reports, people insist that they only saw a pair of eyes, a floating hand, or a floating head. People tend to believe, and I think fairly so, that these body parts are, quote, disembodied, but this is not at all the case. If you will, please imagine that the veil between our world and theirs is like a thin piece of tissue paper that has been enhanced with occasional metal threads amongst the paper product. The best analogy that I can offer you at current is that these people are able to punch through that strong but thin veil, and once the hole is present, they are able to put forth body parts as they see fit, often manipulating the appearance and material of the body as it translates into the 3D. And from here, they are able to conserve their own life force energy on the far side of the veil while still having all of the benefits of reaching into this world and interacting with it as they like and or need, until their ability to draw in and hold the main energy of this world, so heat or infrared light energy, dwindles. Here's a possible example of this in the next clip.
Hello. Is there anybody here in the Everett family? Oh. Hey, Steve. Yeah? Holy crap. Are you kidding me? Did you get something on the thermal? I think we caught something. Hello?
You don't want to see this.
Did you see something on the thermal?
Yeah, and I was recording. Launch. Okay, boom. All right, so now I didn't think much of it because it seemed like it broke away, figuring it was a reflection. And then watch.
Oh.
Doop. Oh. And that was not all the way at the end of the hall. These are closed doors, so that's impossible.
It would have moved from here to here. Straight through.
Stay right where you are right now. I want to get down here where I was.
If we can't disprove this and it ends up being legitimate, this could be some of the best thermal footage we've ever caught.
As you may see in the video, although it seems like this person or being is manifesting with intense heat and energy, it is only apparent in specific areas of what would be the body as we know it. Others, according to thermal imaging, are barely there or not there at all. Please note, disembodied hand stories go back many moons, and as I am to understand, some non-human hunters who prey upon human beings can fully adapt their energy into presenting solely as a disembodied hand as a type of bait, kind of like an anglerfish using a lure. If you encounter disembodied hands or a disembodied hand, or really any disembodied looking body part, please proceed with extreme caution. In my experience outside of the seance room, disembodied hands only purposefully appear to human people when that human person or those human people are being lured or hunted. Please do not ever follow any disembodied hand, head, foot, or any other seemingly disembodied body part, because if it is attempting to directly interact with you and or lead you somewhere, and you are not, say, in a seance where this has been requested, they are, or it is most likely that they are trying to lead you to an area where they have more physical power at a lower energy cost to him, her, or itself. There are some non-human people that I have met who have no qualms about stealing heat from human prey, even to the human person's detriment and maybe even death, once other moral criteria have been met. But I have had many encounters with many non-human people who do have issue with taking either any human energy or too much. They explained to me a code of conduct in alignment with their own morality, as well as the fact that they cannot always judge when they are taking too much heat or energy from a human target, and that this may result in physical risk to the human person in question. I have received the feedback over and over that they need human people to speak up when they are getting too cold, and that expressing that discomfort and revoking the invitation to connect on that intimate level will usually end the siphoning. This is why it is crucial for human people to always go into a paranormal situation with energy transfer principles in mind, and to keep these intertwined with the idea that the invitation is almost everything. This next clip will show you, I think, precisely what I mean.
Thermal on you. Get closer to me too. I got you. Are you okay? Look at the K2.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Hard move.
Oh my God,
it's
freezing right here.
Look at that K2. All the way to 4 lights. Who's there? You do not have permission. You do not have permission to attach yourself to Rose. Only good spirits. Only good spirits. You okay?
Yeah, she's cold, man.
Is she on the thermal?
Yeah. Her hands are blue, dude.
Her hands are blue on the thermal?
Bring it, hurry.
I'm coming. And that thing's just going off. Whoa, her hands are blue.
They're all blue.
Oh my God.
You see how red she is here?
Yes. Look at that K2. Look at that K2. It stopped.
In the freezer.
The K2 stopped.
It's right there, dude. Look at that. Look at that.
Are you grabbing Rose? Here. Move, Rose, move back. Move back. You do not have permission. You do not have permission.
Dude, look at the red, dude.
You do not have permission. Oh my goodness. You do not have permission to attach yourself to Rose. Leave her alone. Leave her alone.
Who's here right now? Is that you, cowboy?
Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that you?
Your hand's freezing.
I know, all of a sudden they got cold.
Did I aggravate you? Let me see red. Let me see red if you're mad at me.
Okay. Yeah, look at her hand now that I put my hand on it. Her hand's red again.
In part, when I am speaking about non-human kleptotherms, this is directly related to all types of energetic empaths. All energetic empaths are biologically energetic vampires because energetic empaths cannot and do not replenish their own life force energy stores. By default, they need to take energy from other people or beings or from high energy places and or situations in order to stay within their current incarnation. This, you could say, is their food. If my understanding is correct, life force energy here on Earth is stored in and right around the physical body, and depending upon someone's health and or emotional state, may extend roughly evenly until about 6 inches away from the body, unless there is a severe trauma which results in holes in the auric field, where vital life force energy may leak out and even further away from the body, flowing freely and dissipating into the air. People who are purely human have strong auric boundaries comparative to less physical, non-human people, and also compared to human energetic empaths, and have what you could call personal batteries that recharge themselves as needed from birth until death. If life force energy gets low for human people who have traditionally human auras, introducing physical medications and or physical medicines, changing the diet, or reducing stress typically will solve the problem. And if not, then grounding exercises where they pull energy from the earth may well do the trick. These methods do not work for energetic empaths because they must have vital, living, active energy from someone or someplace that is emotionally charged one way or the other, and medications, foods, physically, and earth energy contain no living energy in the sense that energetic empaths require. This gets a little rocky when we are talking about the connections between body temperature, thyroid function, and social quality of life. But the fact remains that human people regenerate their own life force, and energetic empaths, they do not and they cannot. There are some energetic empaths who seem to be fully human, and biologically, physically, they may be, but there may be some human energetic empaths who are biologically human, but their lighter body, their auric body, may retain a much lighter vibration in contrast to the main physical body. And because of this, they have the stamina of a healthy human being physically, but need excessive human interaction and physical closeness to as many human beings as possible because they have what amounts to a non-human aura which leaks energy at a high rate. These people are born this way, and although, again, they are incredibly rare, I have met a few, and treating them as though they are non-human people in some ways, educating them about energy transfer and about how to feed themselves appropriately has been the key in helping them resolve their issues and either gain health or regain their health. I have no idea why, to be honest, there is this type of crossover between a fully human body and a non-human style aura. It seems to me that this is just a genetic quirk that serves the overall incarnation of the person better than having a fully human experience. This is the best philosophy that I can personally come up with, and I don't have the answers scientifically to this because it is so very rare. People, in my experiences, as I've said, are incredibly rare, but they are still real and valid. They may not understand that if they were to withdraw from their energetic sources, they would slowly die, unlike a physically healthy human person who has even a remotely healthy standard human aura. I have found that these people tend only to know that they feel better and more energetic when around as many people as possible, and when they have as much access to these people physically as possible, with as high of an emotional content in the interactions as possible. Whether positive, negative, chaotic, or confusion, it depends on the energetic empath. Every species of energetic empath is made of individuals, and the needs may or may not vary. In human terms, this type of human energy empath may be the star volunteer at a local organization who truly is a great person, who loves his or her job, and who is honest, upstanding, kind, energetic, and who has a robust immune system with a strong, stable, hot bodily temperature as their base. Or they may unfortunately be addicted to alcohol, drugs, food, reality TV, etc., and who are consistently complaining, nitpicking, crashing parties, and who come off as incredibly codependent and negative, feeding off of that energy in others as well, but still retaining a high physical body temperature. I have met a few examples of each indeed. Non-human energetic empaths follow some of the same rules, except that their bodies are much lighter in density, and by default, they do not have a 3D body to look out for. So any eating or drinking that they do is food that is essence or ether, and not made of ingredients like we have here, say, to make physical pancakes. But more on this later in the series. Another interesting fact about temperature and dimension is that as people here in the 3D plane get closer to passing the veil themselves, their core body temperature steadily decreases. This is in direct correlation to proximity to the lighter dimensions and the veil, and the amount of classic physical life force one possesses. Perhaps it is time to consider that as human people get closer to the veil, they get colder, and interestingly, it is said that they are then able to see through to the other side of life, where angels, old friends, deceased spouses, and other long-dead family members may well be awaiting them. Then, as a perfect reversal of human death, as non-human people pass through the veil into our world, they get warmer. Still, it remains that in most cases, non-human people who are visiting our world or who somehow have come to inhabit it more permanently, perhaps even pretending to be human, have much lower body temperatures compared to human people, and that eventually all of us return to the other side of the veil, where it seems that, compared to here, it is much cooler. And perhaps I mean that in more than one way. I hope that this episode has been of great use for you. Until next time, merry morning or magical midnight.